The Browns versus the Bengals this Thursday night is going to be a pivotal game for both teams. Both teams coming off of their own version of a disappointment. Bengals losing a close game. Browns getting boat raced by Baltimore. So there's going to be a lot of interesting storylines and things to talk about with this game and with this specific matchup. So to talk about that, I wanted to bring on my guy, Ace Boogie. So let's do it. Real quick before this video starts, I want to make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload. Going to be a ton of content coming out for this Cleveland Browns season. So make sure you're locked in here, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell so you don't miss a single thing. So it's Browns versus Bengals. So Browns versus Bengals, you know what I had to do. You know who I had to bring on, Mr. Ace Boogie. Make sure you follow him on New Stripe City at youtube.com. Also, make sure you subscribe to AFC North Talk on YouTube. We both do banking content in both of those places. Make sure you're subscribed there. Also, make sure you subscribe to me. If you're not, make sure you do it. Hit that notification bell. Without further ado, Ace, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Quincy. I appreciate you. It's always a pleasure to join you over here on the channel. I always love to discuss anything AFC North related, even basketball related stuff with you. So it's just a pleasure to be here, man. How you doing?
Definitely, man. I'm doing good today. You know, the rough Sunday. Rough Sunday for both of us. But you know what? I'm getting through it. I'm looking forward to Thursday. A lot of fun things to help me get there. So the first thing I really want to talk to you about is I think the key word with both of these teams, right, the Bengals and the Browns, is potential, right? Tons of potential, young potential, high potential. You know, A.J. Green, Joe Burrow, what can that be? Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, all this potential in here. How do you feel like the Cincinnati Bengals potential kind of separates itself from the kind of potential the Cleveland Browns have?
I think that it all starts at the quarterback position. Like the Bengals, for me, we've always had potential, right? But the issue with the Bengals has been they've never been able to, since Carson Palmer, kind of get the quarterback position right. And I don't mean to discredit what Andy Dalton did. Obviously, he was able to get us to the playoffs. But we've had teams that have been stacked with talent. Like the Bengals have always had talent offensively. And when you look at it from the wide receiving cores to even some key defenses that they've had, they just haven't had the right quarterback to kind of come in and push them to fulfill that potential. Like when we talk about 2015, right? Like the Bengals made that as like a wild card team. Like any other quarterback, I think that should be first round bye guarantee. You know, that team shouldn't have finished where it did. Like that was a team that we felt like was as talented enough to win a Super Bowl. But obviously you have to have the right quarterback. And so in terms of the potential, the Bengals, I feel like, can actually meet that now that they have the right quarterback. And I think it's a similar thing in Cleveland going on. If Baker Mayfield can be the guy that we saw him be at Oklahoma and that he's well capable of being, I think the sky is the limit potentially for both of these teams because they're both teams that are loaded with offensive weapons. I was just talking to a friend last night who also happens to be from Ohio. He's a Bengals fan, but also has a lot of Browns fans that are his friends as well. And we kind of talked about it, and we were like, bro, both of these teams are loaded. Like, because he was like, no one has more weapons than the Browns. And I was like, we're not the Browns, but it's pretty damn close. Like, when you look at the firepower that both of these teams have, when you compare everyone else in the AFC North, the Steelers and the Ravens, they don't come close to either of us in terms of offensive weapons. So when you look at it from that standpoint, I think both of these teams have potential to do it. But given our similar histories and our past, you know, there's always been this bad luck thing. There's always been this underperforming thing. There's always been this negative stigma, ironically, with teams that are from Ohio, where when you look at the college ranks, we're all good there and everything. But you would think with Ohio being a staple football state, like our pro teams would be better, but they really haven't been. They've never lived up to potential. So I think, like you said, we both have great potential, but it's like these quarterbacks are going to have to be the guys that push us into it so that we can actually realize it. Because we can be talking all the time about, oh, like we got AJ, we got OBJ, we got all of these guys. But if we go into these games and lose and underperform, then it's hard to kind of shake that stereotype. So I think the key for both teams is getting that quarterback position right. And I think that we're both on the right path when it comes to that.
Yeah, one of the things that I was really interested to hear what you thought about was Joe Burrow's debut. I saw a little bit of it. From what I saw, I was very impressed. How's Bengals Nation? How are you feeling about the debut of Joe Burrow?
I was honestly very impressed. Like, it's one thing, like, and I'm sure that you're kind of used to this. When you have that number one pick, you're wondering if the hype, that the build up and all of that is real. Like, when you take that guy number one, that is a franchise demanding and possibly a franchise changing pick. So you have to get it right. And Joe Burrow, had one of the best college, if not the best college season ever for a quarterback. But the issue was it was 1 year. And we've seen this before and with different positions and different circumstances, but it was 1 year. So a lot of people still had questions saying, okay, he's unquestionably the top pick, but is what he did in college going to translate to what he did in the NFL? Was it just a lucky year? Was it just an outlier? And we learned quickly on Sunday that no, it's real. Like, and not even to take away from certain things that came out, because of course, when you pick a number one quarterback, guys are going to say things to build up the confidence. But I felt like this was genuine. Like, not to rank on Andy Dalton again. You guys know that I'm not the biggest Andy Dalton fan, but some of the compliments for Andy would have to be like forced. Like, the media would have to pry those compliments out of certain players. These players were just volunteering that Joe Burrow is ready. They were saying the whole time he's ready. He's not a rookie. He's very smart. And, I'm just thinking, okay, they're just feeding us this. It is what it is. Like, they're just saying that just to say it. On Sunday, we saw that it was real. And, there were a couple plays that I can point to in that game that really impressed me. The first one was Joe Burrow, I think, was on a key drive, and we had a hard time. We had a couple of 3-and-outs and stuff where he was getting sacked and stuff. And he calls a play at the line, and he gets I think it's on a 3rd down and short, and he gets the defense to jump off sides with the hard count. And like, the announcer was just like, oh my God, he's a rookie. He just like really was smart enough to do that. That impressed me. The play where he runs for the touchdown, he made a change at the line. Like, that was all him. Like, that wasn't what Zach Taylor queued up or anything. Like, to me, that was very impressive. Even though it was a negative, when he throws the interception, they literally panned into him right after it happened. When you looked at the look on his face, it was like nothing happened. It was like he threw a touchdown on a drive. It literally did not affect him. Whereas as Bengals fans, we've always seen, like, let's say if Andy Dalton were to do that, you get your patented, I'm holding my shoulder pads on the sideline. Like, we saw this so many times with him just looking dejected and all of that. You didn't get that. It was like he didn't even do it. The other thing is he kind of got on his lineman and he kind of made calls at the line to help with the protection as well. And I think that poise that he showed carried on to that last drive, which obviously we all saw. And then we saw him go 5 wide. The other thing, I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but if it was, this guy is phenomenal. He caught Joey Bosa on the Chargers sideline in that 4th quarter. So every time that he was doing the 2-minute offense, it was literally keeping Joey Bosa off of the field. So that literally gave him more of an advantage to even be able to stay on the field, to run the offense and stuff like that. To me, I just saw that this kid is special. It's the real deal. Like, no matter what happens this season, I know that we have one. And I walked away from that game knowing that Joe Burrow wants to win now. He's not waiting until 2022. He's not waiting until, like, he said that, but it's being shown now that this guy wants to win, and it's just different. It's not the same. Like, it's just different. It's even more different than Carson Palmer. And I'm not trying to say that he's going to go out and give us 2005 Carson Palmer numbers, but this guy is special. Like, that's what I really walked away from, is the hype is real. This guy is special. I'm strapped in. I'm all in on Joe Burrow.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things about what you're saying with potential and, these young guys, I want to know, other than Joe Burrow, what were you really impressed with this Bengals team? Was it the defense, the secondary? Was it the running backs? Like, what really impressed you about this team other than Joe Burrow?
The defense. The guys that they went out and captured in free agency, the biggest guy that impressed me is really a toss-up between the two. Number one, I'd have to say DJ Reader. because the Bengals, although we've had, even in the instances where we've had good defenses, top 5 and stuff, DJ Reader, it was like he was shutting down literally everything. We have never seen that happen. And you actually got to see what it was like without him because he cramped up in the game. And that's when the Chargers finally started getting their rushing yards. That's when Joshua Kelly had all of those. Like, you could notice it. So I would say him. Another guy, Josh Bynes, very impressive. Was really good out there. Mackenzie Alexander was really good in that game. He was going up against Keenan Allen, and we all know that Keenan Allen likes to play in the slot. Keenan Allen was a non-factor in that game, primarily due to Mackenzie Alexander. And I'd probably say my second highest guy that I would probably give – it's hard, man. A lot of them played well. I'd say William Jackson III. He's looking like 2017 William Jackson III. But we have to see that hold up against Cleveland. He was able to do well and shut down Keenan Allen and Mike Williams when he was on them. But we'll have to see if that carries over. But he looks like 2017 William Jackson III. Jesse Bates III was a stud the entire game. Like, he was just wrecking shop. He was all over the place. He's looking like I can't even believe it, but it looks like he's taken to his game to another level. Like, if he can play the rest of these games like he did that first game, watch out. But the defense for sure, like with us finishing 29th last year, this defense week 1 looked like it could be potentially top 10, a lock for top 10. If they can improve, and once they get Geno Atkins in there because he did not play in the first game, and Mike Daniels also looked good. That was another guy that looked good. But if they can I really want to see like how much better they're going to be with Geno Atkins in there. The other thing is Darius Phillips. I know I talked a lot about him on AFC North Talk, and that's one of the reasons why Bengals fans weren't really worried about Trey Waynes being out. He played good as well. Like, honestly, like if the refs actually call Mike Williams for pushing off twice in that game on catches and actually call that, Mike Williams doesn't have anything caught on him, and Darius Phillips has a really good game. So for me, it's the defense that really stuck out in that game for me.
What about any of the young wide receivers? Did anybody stand out there?
Wide receivers, AJ Green is AJ Green. I mean, he looks the part still. Tyler Boyd, for some reason, it was very weird. They did not target Tyler Boyd at all in the first half. Had some big catches on a very memorable third down where we needed it in the fourth. Tyler Boyd made some plays there. John Ross tried to make some plays. He had like one play, and then he had another controversial play that happened in that game where he was bobbling the ball out of bounds, and the Bengals actually got the snap off. So technically, they should have been able to like miss that, but the referee still stopped it. That's another issue. But outside of those two guys, they looked the part. When you look at T. Higgins, a lot of our fans were complaining because he was barely used. And we have to put T. Higgins on there. Like, they had Mike Thomas getting more key snaps than T. Higgins, which should not happen. So I think that we'll see that adjusted. Mike Thomas was definitely a surprise, though. He did make some catches as well. But I think those were the young guys to me that stood out. And honestly, the young guys really stood out on offense and defense. Even Akeem Davis-Gaither, the linebacker that we drafted, he flashed because he had a pretty good game. But offensively, the run game was not that great. Joe Mixon didn't have the greatest day on the ground. The offensive line kind of struggled in the run blocking. So the run game itself really didn't look good. Tight ends, I mean, CJ Uzomah made a couple catches, which is what we kind of expected. I mean, we didn't expect him to just do anything major. So from what I've saw, like, out of those guys, those are probably the stars that kind of looked pretty good to me.
Well, that's the end of this part of this interview. The other part will be a preview of the game here, where we're going to talk about the tight ends for the Bengals matching up with the Browns. Are they going to be able to do it again? So again, guys, if you want to check that out, make sure you subscribe, make sure you're notified, and then you can see those videos down there in my channel.